Thank you for having me on your show, and it is a delight to be here in Copenhagen again and see the wonderful light that this group has brought to this land. I would like to talk today about the impossibility that we have found of living in oneness, but being in relationships. Everywhere we go, we are confronted with the illusion of our relationships. And somehow we feel that we're just not doing it right. There is shame and grief over being trapped in this illusion of separateness. There are two things that I would like to achieve in this short time that I can share with you. One is how to go through life gracefully when life still has opposition. And the next thing is why the opposition of illusion is there at all. What exactly is it that we were trying to achieve? This thought has plagued me for a very long time. Like a chicken in its egg, we have been studying the illusion that the shell is containing us. Yet it was necessary to study this shell altogether, because if we did not, we didn't know which was the chicken and which was the egg. But at the same time, it was frustrating to me that what we're studying is unreal. And I felt somehow that we were missing something very big. We are, in fact, in an illusional boundary, a boundary that does not really exist, that consists of three projectors projecting life. The projectors of soul and body and spirit. We have been told by soul and spirit that they are more holy than the body. But two legs of a triangle cannot be greater if the triangle has equilateral sides, if they are the same lengths. Physical is just as valuable as soul or as spirit. And in fact, as we will see, perhaps even more so. The core question is, why have we forgotten the purpose of this illusion? Because we are trapped not so much by the illusion as by our forgetfulness. And in our forgetfulness, we have not been able to remember when it's time to leave. Are we supposed to leave at all? Are we supposed to play this game? Does it have value? Why does it seem imperfect when in our hearts we know that nothing is ever perfect or imperfect? It just simply is the infinite expressing. The first thing to know is what are the building blocks of life. The subatomic particles that we have, that everything is made of, the levels of soul, the levels of spirit, physicality, these quantum level particles that scientists study. Trying to get my mic to be silent. I hope we've achieved it. What are they? They are, in fact, ghosts of the past. They are little tiny particles kept in place by the regrets of past existences. These regrets, in the form of rivers of these tiny subatomic particles, can also be called Akashic records. There are 4 levels of Akashic records. All of them are kept in place by regrets. Regrets can only be there because at the very core of this issue is the fact that we regard ourselves as able to make a mistake. We feel surely there must be something wrong with us in order to not know what we're doing, why we're here, why are we dancing with the unreal. Within this triad, which is where individuated life forms, it forms also duality. What is duality and how does it form? If you look at the triangle of body, soul, and spirit, they are in fact three mirrors in the form of a triangle. Mirrors reflect backwards. If you hold a newspaper up, you can't read it because the writing in the mirror is backwards. They reflect life backwards. But because they do that, for the first time we encounter something that we would never have experienced before. We encounter that which we are not. Before the mirrors, this bucket that has been placed in the infinite ocean of beingness, all we knew was I am. We didn't know what, who, how, what is the purpose, how do I express, how do I know my own expression. There was no way to have such self-knowledge. So the bucket was formed, this bucket of three mirrors. But now all we can see in our environment is what we are not. In truth, we know in the depth of our being that we have had no beginning and no end. That anything that has had a beginning and an end, like body or soul or spirit, is unreal. It's what we are not. Yet that's all we have been able to experience. The reason that we are encountering duality means that you see something separate from yourself, is because the mirror has shown us what we are not. This is the origin of duality. When we take a look at ourselves in the mirror and all we can see is what we're not, obviously the plan we made for this self-examination to take place seems flawed. But there was something else that we overlooked. And that is the fact that if you read the newspaper in the mirror, yes, it's backward, but if you have a second mirror that you hold up and you look in that mirror to see the newspaper in the other mirror, it reverses it yet again. Much the way that an image is seen on the retina of the eye as upside down. It then has to be reversed yet again as the optical nerve takes it to the brain. We have a second set of mirrors. There is the same mirrors that we find outside of ourselves, inside ourselves. In inner space, there is the mirror of body and soul and spirit. I have recently, in order to acquaint my students with this inner space, recommended that they experiment with dreaming into the inner space. When you dream, you go into the mirrors. You go from the mirror of body into the mirror of soul, with the shallower dream states that give you the dream symbols, or you go into the dream states that are deep dream states, for which we use the poetry of dreaming that you find in the little book labyrinth of the moon, it's a technique to unravel what happens when you go into the deep dream states. It's the realm of spirit. It's the mirror of spirit. If you intend before you go to sleep to dream into your inner mirrors, your inner space, they are no more valuable than the outer mirrors. It just is that it begins to make some sense that there is an entire life within, not just the life we live without. So you also will find, incidentally, that you can sleep for an hour when you dream into inner space and feel very refreshed, as though it has been for 8 hours. Why and how must we activate these inner mirrors? The first very obvious reason why we want to do this is that mirrors that are reflecting your opposite does what a mirror does that is opposite to you. It brings opposition. So you will find that your life has a lot of struggle and strife and hardship. It has opposition. If you try and make your way with guidance only from mind and from external events. Well, if you activate the inner mirrors, life starts to unfold with grace. How does one do that? You do it by living vibrantly and fully from the depth of your being. It doesn't matter why you need to do something. When you just know it, and it comes from this spontaneous inner expression, it's inevitable. This morning, I was waiting for my ride to arrive. I knew exactly that she was now walking through the door. I started to zip up my suitcase and put on my shoes and waited for the call, and then immediately it came. It was inevitable, because from your inner space there is more width of perception, so you can more accurately see what is the next step that makes your heart sing. To live fully and vibrantly, and I must stress, not within the boxes of belief systems, but from the heart. The more you do this, the more your life becomes filled with grace. The more the river that flows through you becomes one that doesn't oppose you, but support you, because now you're activating that second set of mirrors, and you no longer have to see yourself in your environment. You no longer have to see that which you are not, but in fact that which you are. So the deep core grief of humanity is, why don't I know what I'm doing in this mirrored world? And why must I keep trying to find a way to live with grace where I don't belong, it would feel? The reason is contained, actually, the answer lies in the building blocks of life. They are the memories of past regrets. In life, when there is a being with a great deal of regret, you find that they don't move through to the soul world when they die, but they stay behind as a ghost. These little tiny particles are the ghosts of past regrets, but they serve a vital purpose. They, in fact, can hold memory. The bucket in the ocean is the only place where you can know what you experienced a second ago. If you're in the ocean, there is no memory. The you that is experiencing life in the bucket has no memory. The personality layers that become your physicality, that holds memory. And so now you can actually see life expressing through you as a body, and it is expressed by that eternal part of yourself, and it's all of yourself, that has had no beginning and no end, that can never be divided. You can place a bucket in the ocean, but it cannot be divided. It will always contain within it a piece of the outside ocean. And because the bucket isn't real, it isn't just a piece. The entire ocean is experiencing, and for the first time, knowing what you are experiencing. Because you have designed with great skill something that can produce self-reflection, memory, and therefore self-appreciation. These are tools of self-knowledge for self-appreciation. When we work with these illusional tools, we go through 3 stages. And the stages are, number 1, that you believe you are the illusion. Because when you first enter the bucket, all you've ever seen is yourself. Because each being that is individuated here is a specific current in the ocean of the eternal one life. And this ocean has no shores. It has no end and no beginning. It has always existed, yet it is ever new. All you've known is yourself. So at first you look at the illusions in the mirrors that are backwards and you say, oh my goodness, I suppose I'm that. You think you are that. That is strange. I don't feel that small or that distorted or that separate, but I guess I must be, because there I am. There's no concept that something can be not you when you first enter into the bucket. So the very first stage is that you think you are the illusion. Second stage is that it brings great confusion, because you express one way and it comes out another in your environment. You treat people with kindness and you're like a red flag to a bull to the people in your environment, and you cannot understand why kindness begets rage. How can this be? So it brings great confusion. And so in stage 2 of dancing with this illusion, you come to the point where you know one thing. I know nothing. It's impossible to know. There's a complete contradiction in my world. I know nothing. And the mirrors around you say, but I do. I know everything. So you say, oh, you do? Well, then I'm going to listen to you. And so what was a tool for you to unravel who you are becomes a dictator, a tyrant. And all of a sudden, you are now being governed by tyrants. Not a very pleasant stage. In the third stage, you start to master the tools, and you start to use them for the purpose for which they are needed. Now, that is the stage that advanced teachings has brought us to at this point. We know what is unreal. We know we are not. We know our body is unreal, our soul is unreal, our spirit is unreal. But that we are neither of these, none of these. So we start to dance with the contradiction. We start to become the contradiction. And so we play the game, we act on the stage of life, but we know we are just an actor, that the real person is not this character we are playing on the stage. This is when we start to figure out, why are these tools here in the first place? And then we start to use them properly. This is the third stage. What lies beyond that? I can deduce the macro cosmic picture from looking at the microcosm. What I have just described is the three stages that man goes through as he goes from ego identity and then of course transitions into God consciousness. In ego identity, the first stage is the stage of the initiate. It's a fearful stage. Their fear is born of this first stage when we first experienced ourselves as being inside the mirrors. The initiate sets his feet on the path, and everything he thought he knew is wiped clean. And he knows nothing. And his prison bars are gone. And now he's on wobbly ground. And he has no ceiling. And it's very scary. The second stage of one in ego identification is the stage that is where somebody starts to see behind the appearances. They start to think they really know. And they become addicted. Every second phase, and by the way, Pathways to Ascension is in English a free video that spans several hours, and you can find references to it on our website, but it gives you the stages of man. The three phases of ego identity are similar to the three phases in God consciousness, and that is similar to the stages of immortal mastery. You'll find that addiction is the testing of every second stage. For one who has entered the mirrors from the ocean, the second stage, you become addicted to the mirrors telling you what to do. You become addicted to somebody outside of yourself, supposedly knowing more than you do. You become addicted to knowledge. So the next level that you go to is to learn to master the tools of illusion, so that they are no longer the tyrants, but your servants. In every one of these three big stages, the third phase is the phase in which you master, rather than the second stage where you are the slave to your addiction. And it's called the third stage, the phase is the one of mastery. And so this is exactly what we've gone through as we now get to the point where we master the tools. There is some sort of egg that is getting ready to hatch. The tools are here to allow us self-observation, which will be accurate self-observation as we live vibrantly and fully this second set of inner mirrors. We don't need to worry what they are, what they're going to tell us, how to master them. We just have to live by how we feel. Now, why then do we now have to learn the purpose that we made this entire game for? Why is it that we have to now, inside, in forgetfulness, puzzle it out? Because whatever we thought we puzzle out, when we're in the ocean, we don't remember it. The us that is in the bucket is still part of the ocean. It has no memory. We have entered this mirrored world with complete amnesia, complete mind loss, memory loss. So now we're in the bucket and we don't know what we're doing there. That is why it's been so completely terrifying. We need to understand that we're puzzling out what we made the bucket for, how to master this tool, where it's leading, and therefore we chase the illusion of knowledge, perception, awareness. We are as yet playing with the building blocks of life, the ghosts of the past.